Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soulprint. I'm going to do a quick, hope, um, kind of wrap around. I want to touch three things. One is the energy around the meeting between Carney and Trump. Uh, Two, I want to look at how Trump is doing right now. I do that on a really regular basis, as you know. And the other thing I want to take a quick look at is all the chatter that's going on about Alberta separating from Canada. So the first thing I want to say about that, wait a minute, before I get there, thank you for being here. Just thank you. You guys are amazing. I read all the comments, I love them. Please continue to, share and comment. If you are interested in getting a private reading, this is a really good time to do it. I'm not super booked. So you can just go into the information box below, and there is an address, an email address, soulprint888@gmail.com. Just send me out a request asking for information. I will send you back everything you need to know. Okay, let's start with Alberta. Most of you know I live in Alberta. um, the separatist issue has been sort of mumbling and growling, for a long time. The whole COVID thing seemed to have amplified it or sparked it, right? Because what you had was, a lot of people joining the um, thing that went on and going to Ottawa and that kind of thing. But this is the reality. Alberta is bound by treaties with the Indigenous people here. Treaty 6, 7, and 8 are held by those bands. They're not separating. They're not going anywhere. And they think this is ridiculous. So right there, you've hit an absolute wall. I mean, unless, little tiny pieces of Alberta want to kind of separate. Once they start figuring out the logistics of, oh, wait a minute, what does that mean for a currency? Okay, so we know how much money we want to get from the government. That's why we're doing it, because we want to keep more of our money. Wait a minute, how much are we going to have to pay? Because we're also going to have to be responsible for part of the debt. If you think about separating almost like a divorce, two sides, right? One just doesn't get to grab all the goodies and run away. There are benefits here that, of course, there are not in the United States. Now, Danielle Smith, I think it's 6 sort of lawsuits that are currently going on right now around her and around her government. She's trying to break up the RCMP here in Alberta and put in a new police force, but has done none of the work, just keeps saying that she should do it. There's problems with the way things were being handled at Alberta Health Services. This is a distraction. Okay, she is pandering to the separatists because it distracts from all the other problems she's having, including spending, I kid you not, $280,000 to replace the carpeting in her office. It's a big office, but really? So this is one of those things where I really feel like the less energy that it's given, sort of the better it is. Here in Alberta, the people who were pushing back ended, around COVID, and they all tended to get penalized. I mean, it wasn't like they just went on their merry way. There have been, legal lawsuits, et cetera, and they haven't turned out well for them. So there's that. Am I saying that they're never ever going to continue to try this? Am I saying she's not going to hold a referendum? Probably she will if she can figure out how to get the vote. The problem is that when you're 25 or 30% of the population and nobody else agrees with you, it's going to be a bit of a hard sell. There's that. Secondly, let's take a look at the meeting between Carney and Trump. I got to say, I was really actually proud to be a Canadian. He didn't he didn't rise to the bait as much as he just quietly sort of corrected, which, come on, that's like a Canadian trait, right? Trump says, oh, they're not a big trading partner, it's like 4% or something. And he said, well, actually, it's like we are your largest trading partner. And the agreement between the two countries pertaining to the auto industry is completely unique and unheard of and works incredibly well. So he didn't like attack as much as he just sort of quietly said, well, okay, I think so. Um, the other thing to sort of, when you go into that energy, I think that Trump views him as really smart, like a really smart money man. And so, just based on that, Trump is going to be a little bit more conciliatory, more friendly, more open to conversation. He viewed Trudeau as sort of a young little whippersnapper who was, trying to usurp his power. This is the thing. He didn't like the fact that Trudeau was young, that Trudeau was considered very attractive by a lot of people, and frankly, that Trudeau was poking fun at him. So there's that. Um, Trump said, I think I still want Canada to become the 51st state. And Carney just sat there going, yeah. So anybody who's listening to this and not watching, he was just very quietly whispering the words, never, never. Okay. Again, he doesn't attack. He just sort of quietly makes his point. So the energy between the two of them looks as if they're going to be able to make some headway. Where there's going to be an issue is that Carney is not going to back down on being treated with respect and basically stopping the rhetoric about, Canada being absorbed into the United States. And that reminds me, people who are saying that Alberta wants to separate because they want to become part of the United States, that's not accurate. They're wanting to separate so they can be their own sovereign country. All right. They're not interested in hopping down to the States and, joining all the problems that are there. The other thing that I just want to point out, and I really, really, really liked it, when he was talking about Canada not merging with the United States, these are the words he used. I've spoken to a lot of the owners of Canada, and they're not interested in selling out. What a brilliant way of referring to the citizenship of a country as the owners. And I'm saying that, and I am mindful of the fact that the Indigenous people really were the rightful owners of the country. But again, hashing out what happened 120 years ago or whatever isn't going to help anything. You can see the attitude that Carney brought in to this conversation. And as I said, energetically, it feels like 45 it is more inclined to respect him just because he views him as somebody who knows how to handle money, right? He's very impressed by people who can manage money, etc. And of course, that's what Carney can do. So going forward, I don't get the feeling that huge amounts of stuff is going to be instantly resolved or sorted out. But it definitely feels like this isn't a situation where a president can kind of push around a prime minister. So I think going forward, what you're going to see is actually really constructive communication and talks between the two countries and between the two leaders in terms of, trying to move things forward in a positive way. I say all of that, but remind people that you know, we're not likely to forget. And the whole Buy Canadian movement still remains very, very strong. There is, there's just sort of, I think, an energy of you can only insult somebody so many times and so often before people really put up their backs against the wall. So that's what's happening kind of there energetically. Um, Carney, I think, in some ways, as he was listening to Trump, it was like in his brain, there was like a lot of um, recognition, calculation, figuring, and he did a really good job, right? He sort of flattered Trump and then said, but, right? Or actually. So I think for Carney, it was a matter of, in some ways, I think that there is a little bit of surprise um, at basically the stuff that was coming out of his mouth, and nobody was correcting him. I'm not going to say that Carney thinks he's dumb because I don't think that. I think that Carney thinks he's a very, very clever manipulator. It's not businessman, but it is. He knows how to manipulate. He knows how to handle the media. He knows how to bully. Um, and so there was, 50 different strategies in his head about how he was going to react and respond. And as Trump was talking, he was sort of like calculating, okay, what's going to work best. So that was the energy there. So honestly, I think going forward, you're probably going to see a relatively good relationship as of right now between the two of them. We have the G7 coming up in Kananaskis country here in Alberta. And it's coming up like next month, I think. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Not only with 45 being in Canada, but with the other, G7 leaders that are coming in for that. Okay, so let's just quickly skip over to 45's energy. Oh, I got to say one more thing because this was just one of the things that Carney said to Trump. Two things. I got to talk about two things. One of the things was, um, you know, there are certain things that are just not for sale. I mean, Buckingham Palace, like the White House. Well, neither is Canada. Um, so again, he played on the fact he started the sentence off with being a property developer and having so much success in that. You understand that, and 45 didn't have anything to say. He's just sort of, well, yeah, I guess, yeah. Um, he's not quick that way. All right. The other thing that has gotten some notice is one of the reporters asked 45 what concessions he wants from Canada so that they could move forward, in a more positive way. And he said friendship. And a lot of commentators are saying, like, the guy doesn't even bloody well know what friendship is. Or sorry, what a concession is. But you know what? I think in Trump's mind, he knew exactly what he was saying because what is a friendship to Trump? A friendship is somebody who is completely loyal to him, doesn't ask or expect anything ever in return, that is loyal and will stand up and defend him until their face turns blue. So I don't know that his answer was necessarily he didn't understand the question. In fact, I think in some ways he really did understand the question. And the only other thing I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. When that conversation was going on about how the White House is not for sale, I swear to you, I got a picture of, that Russian guy. sort of like, drinking a cup of coffee and literally spewing it every way when he heard the words "not for sale" because it's kind of already been sold. Just saying. Just saying. Okay. Again, I step into that energy and there's this anger and this rage, but the energy itself is so diminished. It's slow. It's sluggish. He um he's not, I want to say, like, processing a lot of what's going on around him. And because nobody is sort of correcting him, he just continues on these sort of conversational tangents that don't make a whole lot of sense to anybody. He is not, he's not so far gone that he has lost his grip or his hold on the power that he has, and more importantly, the power he's demanding he receive and get. He's annoyed with the Supreme Court and the court system because they keep saying no to him and he doesn't like it. So, now you've got Stephen Miller suing Chief Justice Roberts because he says that the Supreme Court should not have final say. That should be under the power of the presidency. I mean, it's craziness. So what I'm getting is that what you have is somebody who on one level is just slowing down, like just really, really slowing down. Like that's his energy, like a big sigh, right? But on the other hand, you have somebody who is being compelled by anger, by revenge. And so what you've got going on with him is almost like this internal tug of war energetically. Um, and I gotta say, honestly, right now, it doesn't feel like either side is winning as much as it feels like a scale, right? That goes a little bit up and a little bit down, a little bit up and a little bit down. Because he's fluctuating, right? Between demanding what he wants and then this sort of recognition that he really is not feeling good, he doesn't have the energy, etc. You're going to see him continue to sort of lash out as he keeps getting told no, and as he believes that the people who should be defending him are not doing it well enough, quickly enough, or with enough passion. So you're going to continue to see this sort of acting out behavior from him. In some ways, his narcissistic personality is taking like hit, like blow after blow after blow. And so then he needs to do what he can to shore up, right? To make himself popular and positive and all of those things again. Um, the news isn't good. I saw just this morning that there was some sort of a poll taken with people who don't vote, like literally with people who are not likely to vote. And before the election, Trump was holding like significant percentage of them. They were supporting him. even though they weren't voting. I mean, they were not supporting the Democrats. Apparently now that is completely inverted. And so even people who do not follow politics and probably don't vote, even they are starting to look around and go, God almighty, what's this guy doing? So the pressure is going to continue to mount. And I guess all of us are going to need to buckle up and kind of see how this unfolds. All right. Please put your questions in the comment section below. I will see you on Friday for Pendulum Friday. Thank you very, very much for being here. And until next time, take care and be well. Bye for now.